Hare Krishna. Welcome everyone to our Saturday evening Sangha. By Prabhuji's mercy, I am sitting here, not qualified totally, but I will try to do. Heard Prabhupada saying once that a postman may not be perfect, but if he is sincere and honest, he can do the job. He may not be perfect, he may not be rich, but he can deliver you money. So my endeavor will be that I'll try to I've tried to pass on what I have heard, what I have read during the course of this preparation, and hopefully please forgive me for any oversight or any mistakes that I might make. So the topic, we are in the third canto, chapter 24. Topic, the chapter name is the Renunciation of Kardama Muni. As we all been studying Bhagavatam for a long time, so we are all aware. Bhagavatam is a series of conversation. It's a conversation which leads to another conversation, which leads to another conversation, and there could be, and this becomes more complex as we progresses in the Bhagavatam. So right now, where we initially started with the conversation between Sutta Goswami and we started with the conversation between Sutta Goswami and Shaunaka Rishi, and that started in Canto 1, and later towards the end of Canto 1, Sukadeva Goswami appears, and then the second conversation begins. Sutta Goswami was present when Sukadeva Goswami spoke Bhagavatam to Parikshit Maharaj. He in fact made him sit very close to him and declared that Sutta Goswami will recite Bhagavatam again, he will tell Bhagavatam again in future. So Sutta Goswami's special personality, Sukadeva Goswami is, Sutta Goswami is relaying what he heard from Sukadeva Goswami. And during the course of that conversation, Sukadeva Goswami is narrating the conversation between Maitreya and Vidura. Vidura is on pilgrimage, and he meets Maitreya, and they are inquiring, he's asking questions, and Maitreya Muni is asking, giving answers. We are in the third canto, and third canto comes here comes the pastime of Devahuti and Kardama Muni. Devahuti, Kardama Muni is Prajapati, one of the Prajapati, as commanded by Lord Brahma. He's been given a task to increase the population of the world, and accordingly he's been instructed by his father, and he performed austerity to please the Lord, and so it's beautiful. He performed austerity for 10,000 years, and then Lord appears, and there's a beautiful description of Lord, how effulgent he is. He comes on a Garuda, and there's very beautiful description. And Lord is also extremely pleased to see Kardama Muni, see the austerity of Kardama Muni, and the crown, the earrings, and the whole Lord's face, his smile, everything is very beautifully described in this period, in this particular section. As he fell on the ground, Kardama Muni, he see that his austerity has been successful, and then he fell on the ground at the lotus feet of the Lord, and he says, "Your lotus feet are the true vessel to take one across the ocean of mundane descents. Only person deprived of their intelligence by the spell of deluding energy will worship those feet with a view to attain trivial momentary pleasures of the senses, which even person rotting in hell can attain. However, O Lord, you are so kind that you bestow your mercy even upon them. Therefore, desiring to marry a girl of a like disposition, who may prove to be a..." So basically, he's asking for a wife. He's glorifying Lord and asking for a wife. And in contrast to this, we have Dhruva Maharaj, who after seeing Lord, who basically worship Lord, with the intent to ask for a kingdom greater than his father. But the moment he sees Lord, the moment he he get the mercy from Lord, he is no more desiring to ask for that kingdom. However, we see in case of Kardama Muni, he bluntly asked for a wife. So two personalities of in Srimad Bhagavatam, and both happen to see Lord face to face, and both one person change his disposition, change. There's a change of heart apparently, and he says, I no longer ask for the kingdom, but the other person continues to ask for the boon that he had thought of. What could be the reason? Was it because Dhruva Maharaj was a better devotee than Kardama Muni? Any thoughts?
Kardama Muni is just executing the order of the spiritual master.
Okay. Any other thought?
He has the task to increase the population.
So he was duty bound. Duty bound. Okay. But he wanted to act, to execute his duty. Okay. So in the third chapter of Bhagavad Gita, the beginning, Arjuna is thinking after hearing his long speech given by Lord Krishna. Arjuna got into a similar kind of a dilemma, that he think maybe if he is attached to sense enjoyment, after assimilating all the instruction given by Lord, towards the end of second chapter of Bhagavad Gita, he started thinking, Krishna has clearly told me not to be attached to the sense enjoyment. So if I am attached to the sense enjoyment, I will fight, because then I can win my kingdom and I can enjoy. So if I am detached to the sense enjoyment, I will not fight. And then he asked Arjuna, he asked Krishna what is best for him, again in the beginning of the third chapter. But Krishna says it's not that simple. So let's make things a little bit more complicated. He says, the beginning of third chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that people generally are detached from God, but they are attached to the sense gratification. And therefore, they act for sense gratification, and some pretend to renounce from sense gratification, but their mind continues to dwell on the sense gratification. And that he explains in the verse 3.6, he called them mithyachari. On the contrary, there could be spiritualists, there could be people who will be attached to Krishna, and for Krishna they will do everything and anything, and they are detached. Because they are attached to Krishna, they are detached from Maya. They can act sometimes, they can be seen as acting sometimes at the material level to discharge their duties, and they can at times renounce also, because of their attachment to Krishna, they have nothing to do with Maya, they have nothing to do with the sense enjoyment. So moment the need ends, the need to perform the duties are performed, they are ready to give up everything and walk away. So they can renounce also. They can renounce, their action and their renouncement, their renunciation, both does not matter, because they have never attached to the performance of the duty. So they are attached, because of they are attached to the Krishna. So Kardama Muni is an example where he's performing his duty. He's been given a duty to increase the population of the world, and he wants to do his duty and obey the order of his father. Whereas Dhruva Maharaj wanted kingdom for his own accord, and having been purified with the taking darshan of the Lord, he no longer has that desire. But later on, Dhruva Maharaj also accepted kingdom at the request of the Lord. The story continues. Lord telling that the princess Manu Maharaj will come with Dehuti, and he does all the prediction that what will happen, and he explains to Kardama Muni that you accept the daughter of Manu Maharaj when he will come and offer it to you. And Lord being so pleased with the austerity of Kardama Muni, he says that I will become your son. I am so happy with you. So this is Garuda Maharaj says that this is one instance where Lord offer himself to become son of a devotee couple, and because otherwise the the Nanda Maharaj, everybody perform austerities to get Lord as their child. But here is a case where Lord happily agrees to become child of Devoti and Kardama Muni, and he declares that I will also become your child. I'll come as Kapila Muni and Sankhya Yoga. I will establish Sankhya Yoga. Manu Maharaj arrives as said by the Lord. Manu Maharaj comes and comes with his wife and daughter and offers his daughter to Kardama Muni. The daughter of Manu Maharaj is fully devoted to her husband. The marriage happens and she starts serving him with great devotion and great faith. And after many years pass, and her entire bodily luster goes away. She is a princess, but she starts living along with her Muni and in his hermitage with bare minimum or practically no facilities, and she performed great austerities in this way, and being pleased with her, Kardama Muni speaks with her with great love. He creates a mansion, and then she takes bath in the Bindu Sarovar. She regains her original beauty, and together they go on to a world tour using their celestial plane, and afterwards Kardama Muni then begets 9 daughters, and eventually becomes ready to leave, because that was his condition, that the moment you will have children, I will accept the renounce order of life. So Devoti, towards the end of chapter 23, she asked for 3 things basically. She says, I have 9 daughters, and as a husband, it is your duty as well to make sure that those are given to the suitable husband. So that is something that I cannot do alone. So that is something that you need to arrange. Second, she says she expresses desire to cultivate knowledge of the Supreme Lord without wasting any more time in sense enjoyment. And she says she realizes that she realizes that her husband was a great devotee, and during his association she couldn't cultivate knowledge, and now she had a great desire to do that. Ultimately, she also wanted to perform devotional service, direct devotional service at the feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. She expresses these 3 desires towards the end of chapter 23. And then chapter 24 begins with Kardama Muni giving instructions to Devoti. That you have undertaken sacred vows, God will bless you. Hence, you should worship the Lord with great faith through sensory controlled religious observance and austerities and gifts of your money in charity. Prabhupada writes in the purport that in order to spiritually advance or to achieve the mercy of the Lord, one must be self-controlled in the following manner. He must be restrained in the sense gratification and must follow the rules and regulations of religious principles. Without austerity and penance and without sacrifice one's riches, one cannot achieve the mercy of the Supreme Lord. Kardama Muni advised his wife, you have to factually engage in devotional service with austerity and penance, following the religious principles, and give charity. There are some other specific instructions given by Kardama Muni, so again, lot to learn for us. This is the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita explains these aspects where Krishna brings forth that without sense regulation, without the controlling of the senses, the progress in spiritual path is practically impossible. And the various verses Krishna speaks and gives these examples in order to establish this. And Kardama Muni also reiterates the same over here. So the sense regulations, performance of austerity and penance, and performance of practical devotional service. We are which is you should engage in devotional service with austerity and penance. So the actual devotional service, as Prabhupada has given us, Prahlad Maharaj has given us, of hearing, chanting, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam. So these aspects of devotional service need to be practically performed. It can't be mentally done, it has to be practically done. And giving charity, principles of giving charity. If we are attached to Bhoga and Aishwarya, we cannot perform any devotional service, and there will also not be any progress in the devotional path. Further, Kardama Muni makes a prediction that Lord has already spoken with him that he will appear as their son, and he shared that with Devahuti that it will the personality of Godhead being worshipped by you will spread my name and fame, and he will vanquish the knot of your heart by becoming your son and teaching knowledge of Brahman. Prabhupada writes in the purport that when the Supreme Personality of Godhead comes to disseminate spiritual knowledge for the benefit of all people, he generally descends as the son of a devotee, being pleased by the devotee's devotional service. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is the father of everyone, therefore no one is his father, but by his inconceivable energy he accepts some of the devotees as his parents and descendants. It is explained here that spiritual knowledge vanquishes the knot of the heart. Matter and spirit are knotted by false ego. This identification of oneself with matter is called Hridaya Granthi, exists for all conditioned soul, and it becomes more and more tightened when there is too much affection for sex life. The explanation was given by Lord Rishabh Maharaj, Rishabh Dev, to his sons that this material world is an atmosphere of attraction between male and female. That attraction takes the shape of a knot in the heart, and by material affection it becomes still more tight. For people who hanker after material possessions, society, friendship and love, this knot of affection becomes very strong. It is by Brahma Bhavana, the instruction by which spiritual knowledge is enhanced, that the knot in the heart is cut to pieces. So again, for the purpose of becoming a devotee and remaining a devotee, it is very critical to cultivate the knowledge, the spiritual knowledge, and the knowledge should lead to practice. Knowledge should lead to practice. Iti matva bhajante mam buddha bhava samannita. If you are wise, people will worship me. So knowledge should lead to strong devotional practice, and that combination will help us come out of, stay away from Maya and overcome the knot of material affection, of material existence. And that way only we will be able to fix our mind on Krishna and perform devotional service without any apratihata, ahetoki apratihata, as it is described in Bhagavatam. Further, Sage Maitreya is describing Devahuti's nature, and she begins to worship the Master of the Universe, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is situated in everyone's heart. After many years, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Madhusudana, the killer of demon Madhu, having entered the semen of Kardama, appeared in the Devahuti, just as fire comes from wood in a sacrifice. Prabhupada again explains this point in great detail, that samyak shraddhaya, that is that with great faith one should receive knowledge from spiritual master, and with great faith execute the performance of devotional service. Sri Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakura, in his commentary on the Bhagavad Gita, has especially stressed the instruction of the spiritual master. One should accept the instruction of the spiritual master as one's life and soul. Whether one is liberated or not liberated, one should execute the instructions of the spiritual master with great faith. It is also clear that the Supreme Personality of Godhead does not appear as an ordinary child. He appears as he is, as stated in Bhagavad Gita, that he appears by his own internal potency, Atma Mahayaya, the verse 4.6, Ajopi Ansam Avyatma Bhutanam Ishwaropisan Prakritim Swam Adhishthaya Sambhavam Atma Mahayaya. Prabhupada will explain this point further, that the fire is already present in wood, but by certain process the fire is kindled. Similarly, God, all pervading, is everywhere, and since he may come out of everything, he appears in his devotee semen as well. Just as an ordinary living entity takes birth by taking shelter of the semen of a certain living entity, the Supreme Personality of Godhead accepts the shelter of one of his devotee and come out as his son. This manifestation, this manifests his full independence to act in any way, and does not mean that he is an ordinary living entity. And to clear further point, Prabhupada gave example of Lord Narasimha, how Lord Narasimha appeared from the pillar of Hiranyakashipu's palace. Lord Varaha appeared from the nostril of Brahma, and Lord Kapila appeared from the semen of Kardama Muni. So all three are independent. Everywhere it shows how independent Lord is, and he can do anything. He can, whatever he wants, he can do, and because he is Lord of the material nature, he will not follow any of the rules that are applicable to the material nature, and that's how he can break all the rules, and he can come in whatever form and shape from wherever he wants. Sometimes he can come with father and mother, sometimes he can come without father and mother as well. So it doesn't mean that the pillar of the Hiranyakashipu's palace or the semen of Kardama Muni is the source of appearance of the Lord. Lord is always Lord. So Prabhupada again reiterates this point, because this is again misunderstood. A lot of people again, because Lord appeared as a son of Nanda Maharaj and Devaki, or Nanda Maharaj, Yashoda, Devaki, Vasudev. He is generally considered, there is a lot of misconception among the people that Lord is an ordinary child, and maybe he had some divine qualities, maybe he did some magic, but by and large he was not different than any other human beings. And that's what the conception of Duryodhana was as well. He tried arresting Lord Krishna when he tried showing him his universal form, when he went there as a peace messenger, but he couldn't see. He just couldn't see. He said, maybe he knows some magic, but what's a big deal? We have so many other great people. I can arrest him. I can, and that's how non-devotees perceive Lord. And Prabhupada takes this opportunity to explain this point in great detail, that how Lord is always Lord, how Lord is not bound by the rules of the nature, and Lord can sometimes come through a mother and father, and sometimes can come out of pillar, and for him it's all one and the same. It all depends on his wish. It all depends on the nature of the pastime that he's performing. But there are no rules that can bound the Lord. Further, this chapter, there is a description given as the Lord enters the womb of Devahuti, how everything changes, how the material nature reciprocates with the presence of the Lord on the planet. And we see similar descriptions in the Krishna book, in the 10th chapter of 10th canto of Bhagavad Gita, when Mother Devaki had Krishna in her womb, how everything changed, how the jail became a spiritual place, how all the demigods goes there and offer their prayers to the Lord in the womb. And so similar descriptions are, beautiful descriptions are given of how everyone was welcoming the Lord. In the 10th verse, Maitreya Muni explains how the Lord Brahma appears. Lord Brahma comes to know that Lord has appeared, and he wants to now visit. He wants to visit, and he wants to offer his respects to the Lord, and he also wants to appreciate Kardama Muni and Devahuti. Lord Brahma spoke as follows to the Kardama and devotee. Prabhupada explains in the purport that, as explained in Bhagavad Gita, the 4th chapter, anyone who understands the transcendental activities, the appearance and disappearance of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is to be considered liberated. Brahma is therefore a liberated soul. Although he is in charge of the spiritual world, he is not exactly like common living entity. Since he is liberated from the majority of the follies of the common living entities, he was in knowledge of the appearance of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and he therefore worshipped the Lord's activities with a glad heart. And he also praised Kardama Muni because the Supreme Personality of Godhead as Kapila had appeared as his son. There's a verse spoken by a Brahmana in which he says that he does not know what the Vedas and what the Puranas are. But while others might be interested in the Vedas and Puranas, he is interested in Nanda Maharaj, who appeared as the father of Krishna. The Brahmana wanted to worship Nanda Maharaj because the Supreme Personality of Godhead as a child crawled in the yards of his house. So there are good sentiments. These are some of the good sentiments of devotees. If a recognized devotee brings forth the Supreme Personality of Godhead as his son, how he should be praised. Therefore, Brahma not only worshipped the incarnation of Godhead Kapila, but also praised his so-called father Kardama Muni. Again, Prabhupada reiterates that it's a so-called father. He is not actual father. Actual father of all living entities is Lord himself. And Kardama Muni, but because Kardama Muni is so great, because his austerities are so great, because Lord is so pleased with him, ultimately he is also praiseworthy. He is also in fact worshipable, and therefore Brahmaji takes this opportunity to offer prayers and appreciation to Kardama Muni. Kardama Muni had executed his orders to the T, and that is what Lord Brahma will explain, will appreciate in him. He had told him to act as a Prajapati and increase the population of the world, and he had exactly done that. So Lord Brahma said, "My dear son Kardama, since you have completely accepted my instructions without duplicity, showing them proper respect, you have worshipped me properly. Whatever instructions you took from me, you have carried out, and thereby you have honored me." Sons, and the 13th text also says that son ought to render service to their father exactly to this extent. One should obey the command of his father or spiritual master with due deference, saying yes sir. Again, the whole point is honoring the order, and the 12th verse, the purport, Prabhupada explains that Lord Brahma, as the first living entity within the universe, is supposed to be the spiritual master of everyone, and he is also the father and the creator of all beings. Kardama Muni, being one of his Prajapatis, creators of the living entities, is also son of Brahma. And Brahma praises because he carried out his orders without any cheating. And then Prabhupada explains the point that how living entities have the 4 defects. They have cheating propensity, they make mistake, they get illusion, but they can overcome those 4 defects which are there in the living entities if they can follow the order of their spiritual master with all sincerity and all seriousness. So these defects no more work on the living entities if they can follow the instructions given by the spiritual master in disciplic succession. So they can overcome those 4 defects. Therefore, knowledge received from the bona fide spiritual master is not cheating. In the 13th, in the third chapter, in the purport to the 13th text, 13th verse, Prabhupada writes that the son or disciple should accept the words of the spiritual master and father without hesitation. Whatever the father and the spiritual master order should be taken without argument. Yes, there should be no instance in which the disciple or son says that is not correct, I cannot carry it out. And when he says that, he is fallen. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur said that the spiritual master is the life, the instruction, the order of the spiritual master is the life and soul for the disciples. And if a disciple follows the instruction of a spiritual master in that way, he is sure to become perfect. Here we see three examples. One is where Lord Ram, the night before he was to be coronated, he was called by Mother Kaikeyi and Maharaj Dashrath to their palace, and where Kaikeyi shares with him, because Maharaj Dashrath is not able to speak. She speaks that that there are two boons that she had, and one of them is for Lord Ram to go to forest for 14 years immediately, and Bharat to become the next king. And Lord Ram accepts without discussion, no doubt, and he smilingly accepts the instruction given by the father, order given by the father and mother, and walks away before the sunrise. He is out of Ayodhya. The second image is where we see Priyavrata Maharaj. This story comes in the first chapter of 5th canto. The Priyavrata Maharaj is another is a brother of devotee, and Manu Maharaj wants to retire from the worldly affairs and wants to retire and wants to dedicate himself to the devotional service of Lord. And he's asking Priyavrata to become next king, and he refuses. He says, I also want to become a devotee. I cannot accept. And then there's a big discussion happens, and Brahmaji personally comes to convince. He had to be convinced to become next king and accept the kingdom. He brings 4 Vedas personified along with him, because he knows that Priyavrata Maharaj is a disciple of Narad Muni, so he can give tarka, he can give some argument why his actions are correct. So Brahmaji comes down, he brings Narad also, so make sure that Guru also tells the Chela to accept the kingdom, and with great discussion, debate, finally he gets convinced and accepts the order. And in the third image, we see Vamandev and Shukracharya, who is Guru of Bali Maharaj. He gives instructions to Bali Maharaj that he is Vishnu, he is cheating you, he will cheat you, you don't give him whatever he is asking. So the 3 instances and the 3 actions, who is right, or why, how do we see this? So were they all right, or they were partly right, partly wrong? Anybody would like to share their thoughts? Yes.
So actually they were all right as per my understanding, that because ultimately as Lord Ram is doing here, he is doing for the pleasure of all. He is just following his duty, his dharma as son. And here, because he is Priyavrata Maharaj is actually ordered just for taking care the people in general, and that is actually in accordance with the order of the spiritual master and at the same time with the father. So the whole lot of that Yadya Acharya discussed, that kind of dharma is being followed by Priyavrata Maharaj. And here what Bali Maharaj is doing is he is directly trying to please Lord. That ultimately as Srila Prabhupada teaches that Yasmin Tusta Jagat Tusta, and whatever we are trying to do, it should be done for the pleasure of Lord. So he is trying to do that, and in that way an obstruction is coming from his spiritual master also, and he is actually subsiding that. So ultimately that is my little understanding.
So can you
Yes.
reiterate on the question, because I was not able to understand.
Yeah. So the question is the 3 situations, 3 incidences. Bali Maharaj rejects the order of his guru. What we've just heard is in the context of background of what we've heard just now, that order from the spiritual master or guru should be accepted, father or spiritual master should be accepted without question. And here we see three instances where Lord Ram accepts the order from his father and walks away without discussion. Priyavrata Maharaj says no initially, then gets into a discussion and finally gets convinced and then accepts the order of the spiritual master. So there is a resistance, not plain acceptance of the order given by the spiritual master and his father. So, and the third instance is where the spiritual master is Shukracharya. He is telling something to Bali Maharaj, and Bali Maharaj simply rejects it. So he declines to obey the spiritual master. So these three instances where three people have acted in three different ways. And we are saying that, are they all right? That's the question. Were they all right? So we heard Prabhuji saying that all were right. Anybody else will want to share their thought?
I can say.
Yes.
So, Prabhuji, ultimately it should be according to the will of the Lord. So, if it is fulfilling the correct purpose, like in first case, Ramachandra is following his father. He is doing the role of a Purushottam avatar. He is the best man. So he is following his father's order because he didn't want to show that I want the kingdom. So he is selfless, following his father's order. In second case, he wanted to do bhakti, Priyavrata Maharaj. That's why he was not wanting to take this charge and get entangled in the material world. But then he was shown by Brahmaji that this is also a service. So when he understood the point that this is for the service of the Lord, he accepted it. And third, Bali Maharaj very well knew that he is Lord Vishnu, and ultimately whatever he is saying, it has to be done to please Lord Vishnu. So if the conclusion is that our activities is pleasing Lord Vishnu, so that is what should be done.
So basically, anybody else? Yeah, that's also a nice point. Yes.
While we all understand it's for the all three are right, just for the sake of debate. Obviously, first, really followed the instructions. Blessings for his father. But the second one, Priyavrata Maharaj, he got into discussion and acceptance of his case, which according to the previous verse explanations, there should not be any discussion or rejection of the order of the spiritual master or the father. And same is the case with Bali Maharaj. He didn't accept he didn't listen to the instructions of his guru. Why? In that moment, in that contextual manner, it's debatable because it's, it's for the pleasure of Lord, obviously, to righteousness. So, for that matter, even if you have to reject or even if you have to, so that's little contradicting to what you said earlier, to say that you should follow without any debate and arguments. It's both sides.
Yeah, the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita where Arjuna asks that all these are they are all pujaniya, the Bhishma and Drona, and the purport Prabhupada actually writes that when we can reject Guru, when Guru becomes fallen, when he deviates from the path of devotional service, when he's not able to lead you to Krishna ultimately. If that happens, then you can reject even the order of the Guru or the Father. So not that every Father is perfect, not that every Guru can also be perfect. As long as, but the moment they deviate from the path of devotional service, and that can be the case where a Guru's instruction can also be rejected. And in the case of Priyavrata Maharaj, yes, it was shown that even this can be where he says that I am creating, but this is also service of the Lord. Lord Shiva is destructing, that is also for the service of the Lord. So you ruling can also be a service to the Lord. And he does get attached, and he was fearing attachment, that I will get entangled, and he does get entangled, and eventually he gets freed from the entanglement also. And in the case of Bali Maharaj, he sees, when he hears this is Vishnu, then he says, if Vishnu wants to take, how can I anyway stop? So why should I not give? So he turns around and asks this question to Shukracharya. Then if Vishnu wants to take, how can I not give? Or how can I stop him from taking anyway? So might as well I will give rather than, and then that's how he becomes glorious. And then that's where he rejects the order of his guru. So various perspective. So the instructions are multi-level. Not every instruction is absolute instructions, and there can be progression, and ultimately we need to see whether there is a primary duty of all living entities to love and serve God, and as long as that is achieved, all other instructions should be aligned with that primary objective. And when there is a misalignment or disalignment, that is where we need to the adjustment need to happen, or the questioning can happen. And if the misalignment is something like what we saw in case of Bali Maharaj, then even guru can be rejected, even the father's instruction can be rejected. So that's what we can learn. Do you want to say something on this?
Please go ahead.
Or it's just a question. In case of the second one, where he takes the instructions and says to be the ruler of the kingdom. So it's a material work, obviously. But as a leader, when you take the ownership and you are leading the way to create more pious and more God conscious population, does it mean that that's also part of your devotional service, which is Vedas are endorsed?
So
Is it part of the same? Is it part of the devotional service that Vedas are endorsing?
when the order is given to increase the population of the world, is it part of devotional service for Kardama Muni?
No, as a leader, if you are propagating devotion to the population, is it part of the service? That's what I construe from this.
Okay.
So though it is a material,
as a leader, if you are propagating devotional service to the
though it is a
general
material,
population,
though we are going into the material world, and not devotional service.
will
So
that
still
be
it is
considered a
considered.
devotional service? Yes, I mean connecting souls to the Lord is a service to the Lord. Yes, that's what Lord wants, and if you assist him in his mission, it's service to him. Can be pleased with him. So book distribution is that. Lord says that towards the end of Bhagavad Gita, if you could do that, that one service is the most pleasing service to him. Yes.
So, in regards to this Kardama Maharaj, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he has made this statement that if I could guarantee that my children would become devotees, I would marry and have 100 children. But for me, in my devotional service, a targeted approach of brahmacharya can help me perform devotional service and connect more people. Whereas his father, Bhakti Vinod Thakur, was a grihastha who had several children and could connect to devotional service in a better way through his poems, through his example as a magistrate, and through his preaching. So Bhakti Vinod Thakur was the one who actually institutionalized Gaudiya Vaishnavism, because before that it was just Babajis and their mutts. But Bhakti Vinod Thakur actually started Namatta by going door to door and preaching to people. And Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur was also preaching at that level, but in the form of a sannyasi. And Srila Prabhupada writes in one place that the order of the spiritual master can be delayed, but it should never be denied. So in the case of Priyavata Maharaj, there can be a delay, there can be an argument, there can be a conversation. But the mood was always of performing devotional service. So Srila Prabhupada got the instruction from Bhaktisiddhanta ji in 1922. Externally, it was fulfilled in 1965. But that does not mean that it was 40 years Prabhupada, 43 years Prabhupada was not doing anything. So as long as the order is fulfilled, that's what if you read Prabhupada's books, several places Prabhupada quotes Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur or Mahapati Ram showed here, that the order of the spiritual master is the life and soul of a disciple. In several places Prabhupada quotes that, including that Vyavasayatmika Buddhi verse in the Bhagavad Gita, where Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur actually quotes it. So the mood is that the Guru's order has to be fulfilled. For some it may be instantly, for some it may be later on, but that meditation has to be done.
Thank you. So therefore, Brahmaji instruct to give away daughters of the Kardama Muni, and so that to the 9 sages. Yatha Shilam, Yatha Ruchi. Another beautiful purport Prabhupada writes that the daughters, this is a use this term come in this particular verse that the Yatha Shilam, Yatha Ruchi. The daughters should be handed over to the respective rishis, not blindly, but according to the combination of character and taste. That is the art of combining man and woman. Man and woman should not be united simply on the consideration of sex life. There are many other considerations, especially character and taste. If the character and taste differ between the man and woman, the combination will be unhappy. So this is how Prabhupada explains that that it should not be just done on the that these are the considerations one should they are the things one should consider before fixing alliances, and considering all of that, only Brahmaji suggested those 9 sages. This was done under the direction of respective parents. The parents used to astrologically determine the character and taste of the boy and the girl, and then when corresponded, the match was selected. This girl and this boy are just suitable and they should be married. Other considerations were lesser important. And Prabhupada writes that what's happening in the current yuga, that it is foretold in the 12th canto of Bhagavatam that in this age of Kali, married life will be accepted on the consideration of sex only. When the boy and girl are pleased in sex, they are married. When there is a deficiency in sex, they separate. That is not actual marriage, but a combination of man and woman like cats and dogs. Therefore, the children produced in the modern age are not exactly human beings. Human beings must be twice born. Initially, as a father born of a good father and mother, and then born again of the spiritual master and the Vedas. So again, a lot of emphasis Prabhupada explains, and he explains that in India this was the tradition. This has always been the tradition, and when this tradition was followed, the marriages were happy. And otherwise, as we see what's happening in today, there is unhappiness in the marriage, the divorces and all kind of issues that crops up in the marriages are because the process was not followed correctly. Further, Sage Maitreya says that after thus speaking to Kardama Muni and his wife Devati, Lord Brahma, who is also known as Hamsa, went back to the highest planet, and then while going he takes 4 Kumaras and Narad Muni with him. The Sanat, Sanaka, Sanantana and Sanatana and Narada, they were Naishthik brahmacharis. And Lord Brahma ensures that, Prabhupada explains in the purport that the Brahmaji is the spiritual master of the universe, the first living entity, and whatever he does gives teaching to everyone. And he ensured that the Naishthik brahmachari sons of his don't remain to see or witness the marriage ceremony. This is again a great teaching that the vulnerabilities need to be protected, not to be exposed. And Krishna gives the example of a tortoise in Bhagavad Gita, that how tortoise withdraw its limbs whenever he see provoking vulnerable situations where he don't allow others to exploit his weakness. And wherever he senses the danger, he ensures that his limbs are withdrawn inside, and he protects himself from any problem. And similarly, basically, Brahmaji by this example shows that what needs to be protected should be protected, and how that should be protected. How can we give a priority to that? Similarly, it's a great lesson for us also, that as we move around, if we happen to see a provocative situation, we should not venture into those, thinking that we are big devotees, we will not get affected, may not happen. And therefore, just like a tortoise withdraws its senses, if there are provocative situations around, we should withdraw ourselves from those and protect ourselves from those vulnerabilities being exploited. So that's how that's how Brahmaji, through his action, is teaching. Further, Kardama Muni, Lord Kapila appears, and then Kardama Muni pays obeisances to him and takes him to a secluded place and have a conversation with him. Now he wants to renounce. He wants to execute his. He wants to dedicate himself to the execution of devotional service, and he feels that time has now come for him to move away from the material life, married life. So when he asked for a wife, that time he wanted to remain in the material world and perform his prescribed duties that were given to him by his father. But like in Krishna also, in Bhagavad Gita also, Krishna explains to Arjuna that you should not quit unnecessarily. In the 3rd chapter, in the 5th chapter, he asked him to remain in the material world and remain engaged in the performance of devotions, material duties, prescribed duties. But it doesn't mean that you should never think of giving up those material duties. There can be a stage where you can consider moving up the order. And Kardama Muni obviously have thought this probably is that right moment when I have done my duty, whatever I've been told, and now it is time for me to move to the higher order, accept Vanaprastha, accept sannyasa, and dedicate myself 100% to the service of the Supreme Lord. So it's not that always, towards the end of 3rd canto, the life of attached grahastha is explained. How miserable that life can become if one remains in the household duties, paying bills, collecting rent, and doing our daily stuff, which we have done whole life till the end of our life. If you keep doing it, how miserable our life also can become. So it's not that. So the instructions again are at multi-level. So that's why we need devotees in our life for guidance, and that's what Kardama Muni is also demonstrating, that he is consulting his own son, who is Supreme Personality of Godhead and hence worthy of such consultation. So he is seeking guidance about, is it right time for him to move on in his life, and that's what he will be doing. So when Kardama Muni understood that the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the chief of all demigods, Vishnu, has descended, Kardama approached him in a secluded place, offered obeisances, and spoke as follows. Kardama Muni said, "Oh, after a long time, the demigods of this universe have become pleased with the suffering souls who are in material entanglement because of their own misdeeds. After many births, mature yogis are, by complete trance in the yoga, endeavor in secluded places to see the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, not considering the negligence of ordinary householder like us. The very same Supreme Personality of Godhead appears in our home just to support his devotees." So, and then he praises Lord, and just like Mahaprabhu says in that if you are to ask something, you have to glorify that. So that's the beggar's mode. I Ainandatanuja kinkaram patitam mam vishame bhavamuto. When Mahaprabhu says this verse that he is glorifying, you are the son of Nanda Maharaj. And then in comparison, I am a kinkaram, I was such a fallen soul. So the contrast has to be shown and then mercy has to be sought. So Kardama Muni praises Lord Kapila, glorifies Lord Kapila, the Supreme Personality, and then put forward this request that today I have something to ask from you. Who are the Lord of all living entities? Since I have now been liberated by you from my debt to my father, and since all my desires are fulfilled, I wish to accept the order of an internet mendicant. Renouncing this family life, I wish to wander about free from lamentation, thinking always of you in my heart. So this is the request Kardama Muni is putting across, and here Lord Kapila accepts that, saying that now being Supreme Personality of Godhead, Kapila said, now being sanctioned by me, go as you desire, surrendering all your activities to me, conquering insuperable death, worship me for the eternal life. The sage Kardama accepted silence, and how did he do? What did he do after moving on in the order of life? He accepted sannyas, he accepted silence as a vow in order to think of Supreme Personality of Godhead and take shelter of Him exclusively. Without association, he travelled over the surface of the globe as a sannyasi, devoid of any relationship with fire or shelter. He fixed his mind upon the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is beyond the cause and effect, who manifests the three modes of material nature, who is beyond those three modes and who is pursued only through unfalling devotional service. Thus, he gradually became unaffected by the false ego of material identity and became free from material affection. Undisturbed, equal to everyone, and without duality, he could indeed see himself. His mind was turned inwards and was perfectly calm like an ocean, unagitated by the waves. He thus become liberated from the conditioned life and become self-situated in transcendental devotional service to the Personality of Godhead, Vasudeva, the omniscient supersoul within everyone. He began to see the Supreme Personality of Godhead as seated in everyone's heart, and that is everyone existing on him, because he is the supersoul of everyone. The last verse, that Ichchadvesha vihinena sarvatra samachetasa bhagavata bhakti yuktena prata bhagavati gatihi. That freed from all hatred and desires, Kardama Muni being equal to everyone, because of discharging uncontaminated devotional service, ultimately attained the path back to Godhead. So, as we see, when Prahlada Maharaj prematurely wanted to withdraw and go away, he was told not to do so. Arjuna wanted to also go away and accept the order of accept the renounce order. He said, "I'll go begging," but he was prevented from doing so. But when the time comes, the right time came, Kardama Muni's request was sanctioned. So, so again, it shows that the instructions in the instructions in the spiritual life are multi-level, and hence we need to consult. There's a need for consultation. There is a need for mentoring, and just like how Kardama Muni approaches the Lord, we should also have a devotee in our life to seek guidance, to seek explanations, to seek to understand situations and help interpret those situations for us. If we only rely on our own self, our own thought, we may make a mistake, and that can be fatal for our devotional life. So just like how Kardama Muni accepted the authority of his own son, we should have some authority in our life, whom we should consult at every stage of life. It's not that it has to be given up today, but also doesn't mean it should never be given up. So there will be stages, different stages where different things will become necessary to be done. So, and accordingly, if we have guide our mentors and our spiritual masters to consult, the life becomes easy. That even devotional life becomes easy. To summarize, we must faithfully, sincerely perform devotional service. We must fly our own airplanes, as there's no shortcut. So Devati, by her own example, showed that her husband was a great devotee. He was instructed to perform devotional service as well, with great faith and a great dedication, and perform all the similar austerities and penances by her husband. So going back to Godhead needs to be, we have to do our own part. And just like Devati showed by personal example, we should also be engaged in actual devotional service. Direction given by the devotee, guidance, a spiritual master must be followed. And Lord Brahma appreciates very much this quality in Kardama Muni. When he made a similar request to 4 Kumaras, they rejected. And so they refused, and then they became Nishtik Brahmacharis. And but Kardama Muni, though there was a danger of getting entangled, danger of getting attached, getting entangled in the material life, he still accepted the responsibility of fulfilling the order of his spiritual master and his own father. And Brahmaji was very appreciative of this aspect. And he speaks very, he accepts and he appreciates this quality in Kardama Muni. And again, listen for us that we should also be attached to execute the orders given to us by our guides, by our spiritual masters and mentors, so that we can continue to progress on the devotional path. Duties must be performed. Kardama Muni, despite of having desire to renounce, perform all his duties to the best of his abilities. And after having performed all the duties, he seek guidance and consultation from devotees as he approaches his own son and asks for permission to renounce, permission to accept the order of sannyasa and go to the forest. And having completed his part, he's done his all duties properly, the permission was also given. So just to reiterate, it doesn't mean that no point of time we can, the retreat that we should have devotees in our life for consultation. And if you don't have it, it's a great loss for us. We're not performing devotional service properly if you don't have devotees to whom we can go and consult for and share these kind of questions, discuss these kind of questions with them. Not only this, but any kind of questions, any difficulties that we may come across in our devotional life. If we are not able to have one person to one or two people to whom we can go and discuss those, then we'll probably not progress sufficiently in the devotional life. And attaining the path, going back to Krishna, that is possible, that can become possible with the mercy of the Lord. So that is a summary of the chapter 24 of 3rd canto, Renunciation of Kardama Muni. So, let's see if there are any questions.
Sometimes it becomes difficult to understand why are there so many exceptions to the rule that we study, because it makes us difficult to have complete faith in the statement that we are reading. If it comes to mind, there can be some exceptions later on in the scripture that we are reading. How do there are certain exceptions that we come to know later on.
So as we see, basically the instructions are progressive, and as we progress, so at our level, certain instructions will be applicable to us, and as we progress, the context can change, and so for we should understand for at our level what instructions are given to us. There will be certain instructions which will be universally followed by everyone. Okay, but at so there's a when the duty comes, for example, the father and mother should be taken care of. It's an instruction. But we know that a soldier, when he gets a call from border, he goes, and that's also glorified. Is glorified for doing that. So that time, even if his father and parents are suffering in his old age, the soldier is still glorified for his action. Why? Because he is doing a higher duty. So if you are when you're not doing a duty, but because you are doing a higher duty, and that is done under the guidance of a devotee, then that is acceptable. And which is higher and which is a lower duty, that is something that we should consult with a devotee. So at our level, the following 4 regulative principles, there will be no question about it. There will be no discussion about it. Doing our basic sadhana, getting up early, chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra, there should be no two thoughts about it. So at an initial level, things are pretty clear. I don't think there should be any confusion about those aspects. Things become slightly difficult when we grow and when we have multiple responsibilities. At that time, things may become little complex, and that's where you need guidance. That if you have to do this, you may not be able to do the other thing. So out of the two, which one I should do? So that is something that we should consult. That's where the role of consultation with the devotee will definitely come into play.
Sometimes it practically becomes very difficult to ask each and everything. We have sometimes so many decisions to take, and the onus lies on us only. Then
Yeah.
how should we go about it?
So again, we have our sadhana, okay, and that is a bare minimum sadhana that we need to perform. And if any, and there can be difficult situations in our material life where our sadhana may not also happen. Or somebody may get hospitalized, where we have to attend somebody in the hospital 24/7. So that's where our daily sadhana may also not happen, may get challenged. So these are the times when we can consult with devotees that what should I do, and so those, barring those exceptions, in general there should be no confusion as far as the fundamentals of Krishna consciousness to be followed. So but yes, the consultation will definitely help. Even in those situations, the consultation will help. That if because of so and so situation, I'm not able to perform my sadhana, how can I deal with that kind of a situation? It will be a 1-day situation, 5-day situation, or a 10-day situation. So whatever that be, we can consult and we can seek guidance from the devotee. So what we have to understand is there will always be multi-level instructions, and so that's where sometimes it's difficult to judge a devotee's action. Senior devotees, when they are acting, we will not be able to judge them. So when we become judgmental, that's where the problem comes. As far as our own actions are concerned, there will be reasonable clarity with our actions. What we need to do, there should be not much confusion about that aspect.
In this example, like now, in our era, now grihasthas are in different fields of work. They have different commitments throughout life. So how does renunciation work out? Can you explain by examples or maybe some guidelines on how this can be achieved? What would be our format of doing it in these conversations?
So while we are performing various duties in the Grahastha ashram, what renunciation means to a Grahastha?
Is it, how do you come out of these responsibilities? Here we saw that he accepted the renounced order of life. So for a devotee who are from different backgrounds, some devotee serving the temple full time, some devotee is working outside maintaining his family. How does he go about doing the same thing?
Oh, so basically, a devotee at a different level, basically, you're saying a Grahastha devotee, a temple devotee, and a devotee who is completely dependent on Lord. I'm not able to understand the question. Whether renunciation is.
Can I answer?
Yes.
So, first of all, there should be no distinction made between a temple devotee and a devotee who is working outside. That renunciation does not mean that if I have a job or if I don't have a job. Renunciation's example, if you remember last Saturday, you were not there. You were there. Devkinandan Prabhu said, vairāgya is vigata raga and vishesha raga. So one is getting renounced from worldly things and the second is getting attached to Krishna. So until and unless there is attachment to Krishna, the renunciation from material things is very, very superficial and artificial. It will not happen. When Srila Prabhupada was in Paris and they were driving Prabhupada from a program to the temple, they passed by this entertainment area where there were strip clubs. And Prabhupada saw a 70-year-old man who could barely walk entering one of those places. Now probably a 70-year-old man is someone who's retired, who's got grandchildren, who is externally retired from the world. But he was entering a strip club and Prabhupada had tears in his eyes that this fellow is not able to control his senses. Whereas in the 3rd chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, Prabhupada writes that Bhaktisiddhanta said it's better to be a genuine sweeper than to be a spiritual charlatan. That means someone who's just wearing these robes and is showing external renunciation. So renunciation would mean that we are doing our responsibilities nicely because we are meant to do them, but we are getting more and more and more attached to Krishna. And if that means wearing pant shirt from Monday to Friday, so be it. If that means wearing dhoti kurta and Monday to Sunday, so be it. Whatever works best for a person. There are some devotees who say that everyone should work only. That's also not right. If someone says no, everyone should be full time only, that's also not right. So depending on what will make a person more Krishna conscious, they have to do that. As Mahapati Ram gave the example of a soldier. So the society may say, okay, great, you are not able to take care of your parents because you are serving the country. But the society will not be able to appreciate someone who becomes a brahmachari serving something even higher than the country. So the mood is more important. If the mood of a person is right, then after 55-60 that person will naturally be able to renounce various responsibilities and become more attached to Krishna. Whereas if someone is a quote-unquote full-time devotee also, but if the mood is not right, then even at that time they will be attached to post and position. Someone may be a very big congregation preacher, working outside and doing a lot of preaching, but if the mood is not right, even after retirement they will be attached to unnecessary. So the mood is what is important. The mood should always be, and we have Prabhupada's example as the best example. That Prabhupada, after he met Bhaktisiddhanta, told his friend, and if I had met him a few years earlier, I would have become a brahmachari and joined his mission. But now I have a wife and I have kids, so I have to perform my responsibility. But always that responsibility was done as a matter of duty, but the heart was always in the Guru's mission. So that's what we have to do, and as Mahapati Prabhu said, we should not take it for granted that we will always be like this only and slowly going. The mood should always be there that eventually there should be more of Krishna in my life and less of these worldly responsibilities. So serve the Lord rather than the externals. Answer your question.
So, devotees and devotees should focus on their sadhana and take up some more responsibilities also, devotional services also.
Absolutely, whatever is possible. If a person is so busy that they just do not have time, then at least they should maintain their sadhana, and they should be looking forward to eventually having a lifestyle which is giving them more time for serving. And if someone is really fortunate enough to be able to serve the Lord all the time, then we should also be very, very careful that we are really living up to it. And we are not wasting our time, or we are not taking it for granted. So the whole point is that the mood of this life is meant for the service of Prabhupada should be very strong. And as who says this? Someone prominent had said, but I mean, we should always keep on doing more. So if in 2025 I could do so much with my time, in 2026 either I should get more time, or in that time I should be able to do better service. So I should always keep on evolving, keep on growing in my spiritual life. Otherwise, there's only one direction, which is backwards. Because as Prabhupada said, the allurement of Maya is so strong that until and unless we keep trying to progress in devotional service, as Mahapati Ram again and again emphasized, that with the guidance of the devotees, in the guidance of the devotees, if we keep doing, only then we'll keep progressing. And asking the question about next stage of life for you is academic right now. You just got married. I don't think your wife is here, so it's okay you ask.
Telecom Maharaj says that we keep evolving, that when we get into more and more, that Krishna wants more and more and more.
Any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
So just continuing with this, our worldly duties are there. So how can our attitude and mood be that we convert that to Krishna consciousness? How do we think? I mean, I know some things, but I would love to hear, inputs from you and Prabhuji. How can we make it more like for Chaitanya? His duty is to study, like as a student. For me, is to serve my family. They are also practicing devotees, I understand. We do business, we do work. So how can we make that Krishna conscious? You can share your...
Simply, the work and business. So starting with our basic sadhana, taking care of family, and making the home Krishna conscious, having deities, serving those deities, performing. And so this is how you can practice nice Krishna consciousness. And at some stage, if possible, we should be performing practical devotion services also, which will be could be like taking a book distribution, where we are impacting the movement actually, and so that's where that can be the next stage where you, apart from your homely, can you think of doing something which will result into practical devotion service? Could be Harinam Sankirtan or book distribution on the streets. Could be anything. Could be software development. If maybe whatever our skill set could be, and according to that, if we can engage our skills, our talents, our abilities in the practical service of Krishna, that can be next stage. But again, it can be done under the guidance of our mentors. But there will be always opportunities, because beyond the home, there is so much to be done, and that absorption will increase our Krishna consciousness. If you happen to accept more responsibilities, it could be in preaching, it could be in calling, it could be book distribution, it could be anything that we can do, and there is a need for that to be done, and we can contribute, and that itself can be the next stage beyond doing our sadhana and homely responsibilities.
That is something extra that, see, whole of the day is something which we are doing as a mundane routine. So I'm asking how.
No,
can I-
apart from that, this you add this to that. This.
That is an extra time that we'll have to remove and do.
Yes, absolutely.
Right? That is certainly, it's a direct devotion activity. But what about the entire day when we're doing things which are not directly connected to Krishna consciousness?
But they're contributing, right? Because even if you are buying grocery, you're buying
Yeah.
grocery for making prasad.
Yeah.
So ultimately, your consciousness can be that
What
you
about
are.
work and business? How do we dovetail that?
The work directly cannot be unless you are working for Krishna, but otherwise our mood can be to maintenance, to that we need to maintain the family, and this Lakshmi is getting used for that maintenance ultimately. And do charity regularly. Today also in the verse that he advises devotee to do give charity. What to speak of grahastha who are earning. A devotee was obviously not earning, but he says there is an importance. Yajna dana tapa karma pavitrani manishana. So even the great souls get purified when these three things happen. So all of those things purifies us. Thank you. Will you want to add something? Yes, ma'am.
To this Mataji's question, can we understand it in the perspective that as Lord Krishna mentions that Tiksasam karmani mai sanyasya bhattara buddhi yoga mubasharitya chitta satam bhattara. We can we be in a prayerful mood that I am going to office and as you mentioned that we are bringing up Krishna conscious family or doing charity. So that particular time will itself change into a devotional service. And if we remain in that mood, is it the right way to understand it?
So there will be so there is a foreground and there is a background. In the foreground, you could be in the job of selling cars. Now, selling cars, you may think this car is made up by the material which is provided by Krishna, and all that is fine. But practically, you will not do that. Practically, you will actually sell cars. So there is in the foreground you will be doing things which are required for you to do and for earning your Lakshmi. So there will, but in the background there will always be a consciousness that this is work I need to do to support my family. So typically the example is given for people who go abroad and work. While they are doing their work in foreign countries, their heart is always back home. Their wife, their children, their parents, their in-laws, all of them are in another country while they are alone in some other country. And while they are doing their work, their heart is in their heart. They are always meditating on their families. They're always thinking about the welfare of their families. Always thinking about their families. And actually, though in the forefront they are doing something, in the background they are conscious. They are always conscious of their families. So similarly, we can be always thinking of Krishna, but in the foreground we'll have to do things which we have to do. And the way to purify that work is by giving charity. So those work cannot directly be purified, but when we give charity, portion of that earning to Krishna in the service of Krishna, that work can be purified. But otherwise, it's difficult to think how you can purify that work. You can have that consciousness, but it can be difficult to maintain it all throughout. Want to add something?
So when we are working outside, we should not be in the illusion that this is devotional service, because it is actually working outside. So at that time, we should be mindful that we should be earning in an honest means and not being sinful. So as far as possible, not spoiling our consciousness. So it should not be that when we go to office, we're talking about movies and we're talking about sports and we're talking about animatedly about the stock market or about current affairs and getting completely into it, just like we are completely into it on a Saturday evening or a Sunday when we meet devotees. Because if that is the case, then that's not proper. So that thing should be there. That yeah, this is my worldly responsibilities, and over here I should protect myself, as Prabhuji mentioned in one of those verses also, where the Narad doesn't want to go to the marriage because he's an Ashtika brahmachari. So we should understand that when we are interacting with the world outside, we are in Maya zone. So we should be very careful when we go outside. Like for example, many devotees nowadays don't follow this very strictly, but we are not supposed to eat outside. We are not supposed to eat in restaurants outside, especially restaurants that serve meat. And even veg restaurants, it should not become a habit. That chalo, yahan chale gaya, onion garlic ke bina chaai. Because the whole point gets defeated. वहाँ पे जाके even if we say Mahaprasade Govinde, it is whereas Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati told his disciples that when you go to England to preach, if you don't get anything, I allow you to eat meat. Why? Because it's for preaching. But when I go to a restaurant and if it is for some good taste, unless I'm in charge of Govindas and I'm going for some tasting to improve the product here, it's sense gratification. So movies, a movie like Mahavatar, Narsimha, we go and watch in the theatre, made by devotees, fully based on Bhagavatam, it's fine. But if you go and watch some other movies, maybe because they are patriotic or maybe because they are based on true events or whatever, as devotees we are not supposed to do that. So those things we should be very mindful of that. As Prabhuji said, we may say that this car in metal is earth, water, fire, air, ether, so I am doing something that, but it's a car. Why I am saying that is because that's actually beneficial in the sense that it increases our urgency for performing devotional service when we are not in that zone. Because when I know that 8 hours or 10 hours a day I am interacting very much in detail with the material world, my morning sadhana, my evening sadhana, my time with devotees becomes more condensed. I value it much more. So in one sense, that's not a very bad thing. If I can have this kind of mood. If my mood is that, okay, Monday to Friday, 9 to 6, I am fully engrossed in the world. So Saturday, Sunday, let me spend more time in devotional service. My morning sadhana, let it be more strong. My night reading, let it be more strong. It's not bad. And as he said, charity should be there. Each and every one of us should perform charity. That is, a grihastha means charity. Grihastha means someone who is maintaining the other three ashrams. Now, whether the temple has money or doesn't have money, my responsibility is to perform charity. I cannot say the temple I go to is very rich. What is my responsibility? And that is the only. If you read the 12th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, what does Krishna say? This is the highest. If you cannot do this, then do this. If you cannot do this, then do this. If you cannot do this, if you cannot do this, at least give a portion of your earnings. What is higher than that? Work for me. What is higher than that? Perform your devotional service. What is the last thing? At least give a portion of your earnings to serve. What is lower than that? At least don't perform sin. The Lord says in the prayer chapter. So it's all laid out.
So ultimately, to my understanding, that mood we should make, the mood is more important. And that mood should be taken up in the devotional service.
It should not just be that I am performing such indirect devotional service that वो link होता है ना, ब्लूटूथ बहुत ज़्यादा दूर चले गए तो लिंक टूट जाता है, वाईफाई बहुत दूर चले गए तो सिग्नल वीक हो जाता है. It should not be like that. Because otherwise, theoretically, I can link everything to the Lord because everything is 5 elements.
But the mood is not access.
And Srila Prabhupada, externally, he was selling pharmaceutical products. So he was not, when he used to meet his god brothers, what did Prabhupada do? He rented, although he was having a money crunch, he rented 2 more apartments in that same village and let his sannyasi god brothers stay there. So that, I am busy with this, at least with my income, I am renting flats where my god brothers are staying and preaching. And as soon as he used to be free from his work, he used to go there. So he arranged in a way that he would get association. But he knew that this is for my family, and then I'm rest of the time, then there is more urgency. Like Jayapataka Maharaj, he often says about devotees in the Middle East. He says that in India we take association for granted, but devotees in the Middle East value association so much because they cannot freely perform devotional service outside. So when they meet on Fridays or Sundays, they really value it a lot. So as devotees who are working outside, we should value our Krishna conscious time a lot. And by that, then we'll progress faster.
Any other question?
Part has been already answered. But my question here is, I have a conditioned soul. My entire life, maybe 4/5 of my life has been into the material world, and now I am seriously following the path of spiritualism and Krishna consciousness. But here somewhere, still attached with the materialistic world. Is it like if I want to be a serious devotee, so it ends my joy of my life, or it automatically goes away if I am like we are supposed to only get into Krishna conscious mood, but does that mean that we keep ourselves aloof, or it's an automatic process that you become a serious devotee, automatically you become away from the materialistic, or I need to qualify to be a serious devotee?
So in the devotions, in the Krishna consciousness, joy never goes away. So it increases. Anandam ambudhi vardhanam pratipadam purnamrita smadhanam. We don't find it joyful. We don't see Bhagavatam. We don't feel happy. Let me read it. It's like because of our own condition. Because we feel between kirtan and Bollywood songs, some of us may still feel that Bollywood song sounds better. It's not that, and then on the other hand, we have Rupa Goswami who says, I need lakhs of ears and lakhs of tongues to chant. I get so much relishment. So Krishna consciousness is all about relishment. It's there, but it's inaccessible to us because of our own impure state. And it's just like a person, the example is given, a person infected with jaundice doesn't find sugarcane sweet. But sugarcane is always sweet. But as he keep drinking it, he eventually finds it sweet. So as we perform devotional service, as we become more closer to Krishna, we start loving Krishna. We get more attached to Krishna. That attachment comes through attachment to devotees in